Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow the big film is coming out. The one we've all been waiting for. The one that I'm literally now finally wearing the right clothes for. The one that last year made us all freak out and break down and lose all of our humanity and wish that we could all just start over and just end it all. Man, I went too far. Marvel's The Avengers came out in May 4th of 2012. Yeah, it's almost been 7 years. That's insane for me to believe. Directed by Joss Whedon, that would soon betray us and direct this little unfortunate disaster. I was obviously around the big hype. I remember everyone talking about it. All my friends would not stop talking about it. Who was the favorite Avenger, or what could possibly happen in this movie, how they're going to build it up, if it's even going to be any good. And I asked my parents over that weekend if we can go check it out. It was Saturday night. We went to a movie theater in Peru that was so packed that I'll never forget this, and I always had this in my memory. And I don't know why I randomly just tell my mom about it when because we love watching movies a lot together. When I just remember this, that it was so crowded in that theater that there were literally kids outside that bought tickets. They let them in. They had the audacity to let them in. But there was no seats left. They didn't care. They were just watching it standing up or at the doorway, the very entrance, like where you could finally peek to see the screen outside. Like they're just peeking in to sneak in. They had their ticket and everything, but it was that crowded that there was no seats. They didn't care. They were watching it proudly with all of us. And that was probably one of my most favorite experiences in my life that I always remember. As you can tell, that's why I have it so well remembered in my head. There was a good reason for that. Avengers was a pretty big deal. There's a reason why I didn't want to use the word MCU earlier, because of the simple fact that people forget Avengers was really important, not just because, you know, it was the big team-up film of all the superheroes that we've always wanted to see. It was also going to be able to prove this new concept at the time that, yes, is so practically overloaded and infested everywhere that we see now, was a brand new idea of a cinematic universe. We never at that time, though there were attempts many times before, even by some of my favorite franchises, like obviously Star Wars with their prequel idea, there was never really an idea of making multiple prequel side films and big movies to all be able to come together in this one ginormous cinematic universe where it'd all be connected and all the stories would relate to somehow. Marvel had some big balls to fill. And somehow, in some way, with a miracle, ironically with the same man that will end up failing them, the DC aside, which the more I think about it, maybe he did it on purpose, the way I see it. But hell, what do you know? I won't blame him. Who doesn't love the Avengers? Finally managed to prove everybody wrong and just prove that you can't just make a damn good superhero movie with multiple characters at the same time. You can make it amazing with some iconic moments that you can even still remember to this day, which, if you remember the last video that I did of the original trilogy, I'm going to talk about probably my favorite scene in The Avengers. The one that should be obvious that everyone talks about, because with very good reason, it's the epic battle in New York. Yes, a lot of it can seem very cliche now with, you know, everyone's favorite old beam in the sky thing that people forget. The Avengers wasn't the ones to popularize that, but despite every other film after that, even to like the last one I remember it being Suicide Squad, trying that ridiculous idea, Avengers is still like the only movie that I see that does it right. Why? Because you love the characters so much and care about them, and that's what Marvel's always known from the beginning. Like, no matter how ridiculous or crazy or emotional the stories can be, if the characters aren't interesting and they're flat and boring, you're not going to care about the movie. Very few movies manage to be good just with its story. Some examples are like 2001: A Space Odyssey, or I think another one I talked about earlier this year was a Mother. I don't know if I ever reviewed it, but that's an example for me of a movie that the characters can be really odd, but the story's incredible that you don't think about that. But those are like two movies in like the span of like, what, 60, 50 years? So yeah, it's going to take a lot for you to be able to make the story interesting on itself. So you got to focus a lot on characters. The Avengers understood that. So they knew when the New York battle came out and all of this crazy beam in the sky and crazy flying alien robots everywhere flying around you, you cared the whole time. You wanted them to succeed and you wanted them to work together, which ultimately, ironically, that's really all of what the movie was about. It's very stupidly simple. And now that I watched it like 3 times again these past 2 weeks to hype myself up for Endgame, it's all really just one big, almost buddy cop film in a way, with like 5, 6 people instead of just 2. It's just them trying to work together and try to get rid of their differences and not worry about that and work together to fight for the greater good. Also, one of my personal favorite scenes of the whole New York battle, if I had to go specific, is obviously the iconic I'm Always Angry Hulk scene where he literally freaking punches one of those ginormous alien robot things with his fist and destroys it all in like 1 second. It's freaking amazing. You all have already seen it. Most of these films that I talk about in the retro reviews is something I grew up with or heavily influenced me in a lot on the way I live or the way I enjoy life. And Marvel's The Avengers had a lot to do with that. It's the reason now that I own all these freaking movies. Like, I don't even own all of them yet. Look, there's a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, and then here's all I have of the MCU so far. It's just insane to think about, like, how much all this fun that I have nowadays and all these crazy new, franchises coming back. We have freaking Legos. We had Universal try to do some crazy shit where they brought in, like, the old monster films from the 30s and brought them back to be a cinematic universe. We're gonna have Dracula and Frankenstein being a team-up film. I mean, what? And then we also have now Godzilla and King Kong. We obviously have Star Wars that I bring up Marvel pretty much is responsible for bringing every franchise that I ever loved that I thought was gone forever back and more. Stuff that I never thought I would even need. We got movies about Legos coming out, and I freaking love them. The Avengers was really the one that proved it all, because ultimately, yes, I know Iron Man was technically the first one to start it all, and was the first one to start this whole MCU and everyone talks about. People forget, even when Iron Man first came out, nobody knew where it was going. As a matter of fact, there's a reason why, the iconic, wait for the after credits thing came out, happened in Iron Man, because they didn't know if the whole MCU thing was even going to be a success. So, if you had to wait all the way till the end, that most people didn't, to see this crazy after-credit, like, secret scene that was going to happen at the end of the movie, to see possibility of the whole Avengers initiative happen, well then, yeah, let's see if it could work out. If not, most people weren't going to care, because most people didn't stay that long anyway. If it all failed, all we could have ever had was a really damn good Iron Man movie. A great Iron Man movie, as a matter of fact. I finally watched it like 3 times, like last year. It's amazing. I know, it took me that long. I wasn't joking when it took me a long time to see a lot of movies. That's what it would led to everything we see nowadays, of all these crazy franchises and continuing multiple films of solo characters or prequels or sequels to the big event films that prove franchises can be freaking awesome, and there's always new ways to tell stories in our films. Wow, that actually sounded really cool. That was on the spot right there. Guys, that's what I thought about the Avengers from 2012. I know I felt like I was rambling, but you know what? I really enjoy doing this stuff. It's just nice to, talk about really positive things. I know it's super old at this point. Everyone's thinking about Endgame, but let's have some fun. Let's talk about some classics, my guys. It's not even that old. It's 7 years old. You're not going to forget about Avengers that quickly. No one is. And also, obviously, I need to know, since it's coming out tomorrow, and you'll probably want to know, I'm going to be doing an Endgame review. I'm thinking about doing possibly a live stream, maybe with some friends, if I can pull that off. If not, expect it in a few days after the movie comes out. Most people are doing that anyway. I hope you all enjoyed this video. It was so much fun to record this. I hope you all have a good night. I'm actually recording this at night again. See you guys.